You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Time to fire up the VCR. This one's my favorite. That was gold.
Welcome to Analog Jones and the Temple of Film. I'm Steve.
No, I'm Matt.
And Ashley's back!
It's me again. Hi. I won't leave you alone.
She's coming in your eardrums hot.
Loud and clear.
And this week we are going into our second movie in the Aliens franchise review. It's a pretty huge franchise. I don't know if anyone knows that out there. Have you two ever heard of this franchise?
I've seen a couple of these.
I have dabbled.
I've seen them a few times. Yes, Aliens. We're on the one that's so big and everybody loves it.
It adds an S.
It adds an S, and we have to have more than 2 people on this episode just to take it all in.
You're going out there to destroy them.
That's the plan.
All right, I'm in.
The first time she survived the most terrifying creature in the universe. She thought the nightmare was over.
Something under the floor.
It hadn't even begun.
Coming straight for us.
That's inside the room.
Sigourney Weaver, Aliens, the new movie. This time, it's war. Rated R.
I think just like James Cameron was like writing like 3 movies at one time at this point because he was just taking all this work after Terminator. And I seriously bet one night he's like, I don't know, there's more than one, so Aliens? That seems to work. Let's go with that.
Aliens. Nice.
I mean, that pretty much feels like what they're doing with remakes nowadays. It's just like, let's just use the original title. And he's just like, I'll just add an S. Pretty good title. Move on.
I think Alien 2 would have not had the same pizzazz that Aliens has, I guess, for the franchise.
He should have just called it A2, just like T2.
Ooh. Oh my god, just his movies. They're saving that for Avatar too.
Yeah, A2. Oh, yeah.
He knew.
I got this really good story about these tree people.
If Avatar 2 is not called either A2 or Avatars, I'm not seeing it. I'm just kidding. I'm seeing it.
But you'll still be extremely disappointed and like write him a letter.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has been too long for those movies to come out. Like the hype, I feel like, for the technologies, like we're doing the technology. It better blow my mind. It better hit 4D.
Well, by the time we get to the 6th or 7th movie that they're making like a bajillion of them for some reason, maybe then the technology will be mind-blowing.
James, cut it out.
Just make us in the final Terminator movie and we're good and we'll go away.
What if they suck? I've always thought that. Like, what if it's not good?
I think that's how I feel like it might be. Like, I think it's more likely to suck.
I'm excited for Avatar 2 because that's the first one out the gate. And, you know, James Cameron did T2, so it's like, okay. I mean, he knows how to do a sequel, so I'm excited to see 2. But 3, 4, 5, however many there are, I don't know about that. Yeah, I really think it's gonna, by 3 already, we're gonna be done.
I'm sorry, but did T2 come out 15 years after the first one?
No. It came 7 years after the first one.
That's like half.
Well, I'm just like, if they can't save their planet by, like 3 movies, I don't know if they're very good at their jobs. I'm just saying. I'm putting that out there. They seem to take care of the Marines really, they did some damage, but what's left to save? That's all I'm saying. Like, is there another planet? There has to be another planet, right?
P2, Pandora 2.
We'll take a look at the VHS here. It is... I'm looking at, and you said you had a 93 one. I have a 92 one. I think they're the same. I think they're exactly the same. There's no trailers, and it's just a black box. And this is during the time when the Aliens franchise was putting out the VHSs where they had the little box in the middle of the tape here. And in this one, it's just a picture of Ripley and Newt, and she's holding Newt, and she's got the big gun. And, there's the fire explosion behind her, but it's like a really, really, really tiny image in the center of this black box that just says Aliens. And that's our cover. That's it.
Yeah.
And they did a line of these for like all of the movies. It depends on what VHSs you have, but I do remember seeing these a lot in the video stores. The Aliens theatrical cut, none of the VHSs are pretty impressive. They all are very simple layouts on the front. You're either going to rent this movie or not. You know, like I don't think the cover is going to sell you on this one.
Yeah, the only cool one I saw was the 99 special edition. And that where they're like, it's 20 minutes of extra. And it's like a gold cover and it shows the Queen Alien. But you're right. Looking at all these re-releases and the original ones, they're not that good.
Yeah, I think they're selling it on the movie. There's no real need to give you any images or art or anything to sell you. It's just like, hey, second Alien movie. You want to see some aliens?
I mean, to be fair, yeah.
So I mean, it doesn't matter. I guess like it doesn't need a good cover. It's an Alien movie. You're in or you're out.
Yeah.
You flip it over to the back here, and we got a picture of the Alien Queen. That's the whole left side, and then we get a one still of like the face-off between Ripley and the Queen from the end, and one still image. And then here's our quick description. Sigourney Weaver leads a high-tech space combat team in the stunning sequel to Alien. Sigourney Weaver returns as Ripley, the only survivor from mankind's first encounter with the alien. Her account of the alien and the fate of her crew is received with skepticism until transmissions from space colonists who have since settled on the alien's planet abruptly stop. Determined to end the recurring nightmares of her terrifying ordeal and to completely exterminate the deadly creature, Ripley joins a team of high combat vets sent to investigate the disappearance of the space colonists! Exclamation point? I'm not sure why they did that.
I know, I saw that. I thought you were going to really lean into it, but...
I'm questioning the
you
exclamation
added a question
point. Yeah,
mark.
I'm questioning the exclamation point at the end there. So that's our description.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I never really even cared about the space colonists, but this one's just like, space colonists! So...
We love the colonists. They are all dead.
We only see them in little pods.
Spoiler, they're not going to make it.
Spoiler, everything is a crazy time.
I've always wondered what these aliens eat. We should go into that one day.
I think just like each other, maybe?
I don't know.
Like...
Grubs. Just whatever.
I was like, do they eat the human bodies after like they pop out? Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like they just leave them. Because think of the one on the ship.
Yeah, it's still just there. Yeah, I don't know what they eat.
But they grow rapidly.
Do they need to eat? Maybe they're bred to not even need to eat or drink or anything.
They just have an appetite for murder.
Okay, that solves it. Murder feeds them. Your screams.
Yes, screams definitely are the best sustenance.
All right, let's put this tape in. No trailers. We're on to this, right to the feature presentation.
And now, our feature presentation.
From one alien to this alien, Xenomorph, James Cameron coming back after Ridley Scott came out with, what was it, 79? Was that the original alien?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got, a nice 7-year gap here. He likes that 7-year gap, doesn't he?
The Alien series, too, has that, where there's pretty big gaps. It's only up until you get to the recent ones that the gaps get smaller. But these old ones, it's 7 years in between these, and then it's another 6 years before the next one.
And Sigourney looks the same in
all of them. She does not age. It's true.
Yeah, they're like, well, we need her to look different for the third one. Shave her head. You're a genius.
Yep.
I think it is the hair. She's got more 70s hair in the first one. She's got kind of the more 80s, like shorter curl look in this one. And then, the 90s, she shaves it. So it's the only thing the signifier that she's aged is the hair. Because her face, she looks exactly the same.
Yeah, she's aged well. I mean, even up to the 2010, there's a picture of her on IMDb, and I'm like, Jesus, what are you eating?
She's a queen.
Going into with 20th Century Fox, they seem to take their time a lot with the Alien franchise between each one. Now, I don't know if that's on purpose or they just... 20th Century Fox was just booming after Star Wars and Alien and everything like that. So I'm wondering if more of the time period was just they could wait. It's not like they needed another hit. They had plenty of other ones.
For this movie, they did need another hit at this point. So they were riding the high in this, like you were saying, after Star Wars and Alien. But come 86 or 85 or whenever this, started shooting, they were in trouble. they needed this to be a hit. So I wonder if they went back to the well and they were like, what can we franchise right now? Because we're in trouble. In 86, Fox was in a true rebel.
Yeah, I knew they needed another. Well, they wanted another Aliens, but they just kind of like put it on the shelf. And James Cameron came and they wanted to work with him, and he pitched a bunch of stuff. And he said basically they were looking at him like, this might have been a waste of time for the meeting. But they mentioned like, hey, we're thinking about bringing Alien back. Do you want to take a shot at it? And he's like, of course. And on the commentary, he mentioned, he's like, oh my God, I had to go home and study because I didn't know much. I mean, I saw the movie, but he also had a script called Mother that he essentially took pieces from, put Ripley in, and then created a new world.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the mother aspect of this film comes across, so that makes complete sense that he had a movie called Mother.
Well, and that movie was about androids or something. So like it wasn't even about this, but he said what he did is he took Geiger's like feminine look and kind of horrific look of the aliens, and then kind of he's like, well, who's laying all the eggs? But that was on everyone's mind. So he just kind of took what was in the zeitgeist at the time, took the alien, and then he put in Ripley. And then he figured like, okay, let's have these two fight it out. Kind of a simple, that's kind of what James Cameron does. He's good at putting one really bad versus one really good, and then trying to confuse you. Like he did in Terminator 2. Is the Terminator bad? I don't know. You know, like that's what he does. He does the same thing with, he did it in Avatar. Like when you look at it and they're like, are the Marines bad? Yes, of course they're bad. But he like tries to always do this like little turn with you. Like, is the alien queen bad? But at the end, we all like Ripley. So yeah, kill that queen. That was always my like little kid opinion.
I don't think I ever thought like, is this alien queen bad? I don't think I ever thought.
Well, she's just doing her job.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, you know, I'm in the perspective of a human, and it's like you're destroying people.
Yeah, and you have acid blood, and you know,
Yeah.
little face rippers that shoot out of your mouth and
If
stuff
it
like
was
that.
just like
yeah.
walking around like, hey man, we're just like doing our own things, like maybe we can be separate. No, those things came in and took over and murdered people like without even blinking. Like, so there's no connection there. So me as a human, I am biased because I'm like, you're killing people.
Yeah, well, I've kind of had more of the sympathy for like the alien and the next one in Alien 3, like Ripley's baby alien. That was always one that like I felt for a little bit, but that's that's that movie. This one, yeah, it's like these are like bugs. This is like Starship Troopers 11 years before Starship Troopers. The aliens are like bugs. They're just laying eggs and they're everywhere and they're nasty and you got to blow them up.
This movie's just kind of like, just goes, it's all like machismo emotion. And then you realize like at one certain point that none of that works against these aliens. Because everyone except Ripley comes into this very confident. They're like, we're going to take these fuckers down. You know, this is just a bug hunt and all this yada yada. And it's the same thing, like you said, with
Starship Troopers.
Where they come in and, you know, it's just like, we're going to kill all these bugs. And then you're like, you know, these bugs are like literally manufactured to destroy everything. I mean, we later find out, but at this point, we still didn't know where the aliens came from or the xenomorphs. Which, did they ever bring up? I think this is the movie that introduced the name xenomorph.
They say it like very early in the beginning. Like she is intercepted, picked up, and it's been 56 years since she's been floating around in space. And yeah, like very early in the briefing, they say a xenomorph. I also noticed that. I was like, oh, I don't think they ever said that in the beginning, but we all know it as a xenomorph. So clearly this was the moment that coined it. Which I always think it's funny because most franchises, it's a couple in where you get like the lore of an actual character. Because like if you do the Friday the 13th, would you guys just... Wait, did you guys do this?
No, I'm just watching.
Oh,
this.
okay. We've been watching a lot of Friday the 13th, but like, you know, the image of Jason doesn't come along until several in.
Yeah.
That's just a huge franchise thing, I feel like.
Yeah, I think this Aliens is kind of like the Halloween 2, where it's like, you know, the Laurie's his sister kind of lore. This is sort of like this, like Ripley, we learn who she has a kid back home. We call them xenomorphs, and we really get a gauge for the LV-426 planet.
Yeah, but I don't think we know. I think they cut that scene.
They cut like the explanation scene, but she has one line in this where she says like, I had a daughter back home or whatever.
Yeah, she does say that. Yep. And it's such a throwaway, because that's why I always get mad at this movie.
Yeah, they cut the scene for time where she finds out that her daughter has died during the 50 whatever years she's been asleep. And it's actually her mother in real life. they put as her daughter. I thought that was clever.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, and this comes from Matt's. Like, you introduced it to me, where how much her opinion, Sigourney Weaver, on scenes in this entire franchise, how she has changed her mind on it so many times. Where James Cameron felt bad when they cut it because Sigourney Weaver said, "I based the entire character of this movie off that scene, and you cut it." And then, then 10 years later, she's like, "Yeah, I never really much was a fan of that scene." And then into this special edition, she said, "Yeah, I wish that scene would have stayed. I'm glad they came out with the special edition because I based the entire character off of it." And Cameron even brings it up in his commentary. He kind of just like brushes it aside. He's like, "Well, sometimes actors' opinions change." And then he just kept moving on. But I started to look up other things on her, and she sends a lot of mixed signals on her movies. I really don't. She's kind of interesting.
I think she has a tumultuous relationship with Ripley. I think she loves this character and always wants to come back, but then always kind of feels burned somehow when she does come back. Which, to her credit, absolutely. Like, if that's why she signed up to do this movie and then they cut that scene, Alien 3 didn't go the way it was supposed to. Well, we know that. And then, like, 4 just was too goofy, and it was like the one she was producing and everything like that. So yeah, she keeps putting all her eggs in the Ellen Ripley basket, and the filmmakers, the studio, whoever, just kind of keep fucking her on all these movies.
I think it's interesting that like she initially said that she rebased her entire character on the notion that she had a daughter, and I think it's because like that does change the conversation of Ripley. The first film, it's so independent, so act on a moment's notice, and then you introduce this fact in the second one, and then especially with it cut out, it does seem like she's being like very motherly and soft the entire time. Like, because she's chasing this little kid around this whole place and really panicked and worried about that. And so I could see how she would change the character, because to me it doesn't feel like Ripley from the first one, and that's my main issue, I think, with this second one. So like anybody who's listening and who loves aliens, like, I'm not gonna be your best friend. You're probably gonna not like what I have to say about this movie.
She's a really interesting character, because in the first one she was supposed to be a man, and then they switched it. They're like, well, why can't she just be a woman? And a lot of that had to be because a producer really likes Sigourney Weaver, and then Ridley Scott's like, yeah, right on, why not? All the characters in the first movie are very characteristic. They're like, she's intelligent, she likes to follow the book, she'll question authority. Like, that's Ripley's entire character in the first one.
Yes.
That's it. All of them are very simple. And so Cameron, when he got this, he's like, well, I can't just put the same character on screen, because why the hell would she ever go back? And so he had to, put in like, she is kind of lost. She can't get anything. She has shithead corporate suits telling her that she can no longer do her job of the past. So there had to be like this incentive to get her to go back, because no sane person would ever go back to these aliens. Because I even said in the movie, I don't give a fuck. I'll continue to work. I am not going back to those people.
I think there are many other routes that could have happened with. Making her be a mother is not the only option to send her back.
That's not why she went back, though. She went back to get her life back so she could work, so they would put her in. It didn't have anything to do with going back as a mother. The mother thing didn't come in.
Oh, I thought you were saying like she was lost now because like she didn't have a family back home.
No, she's lost because she can't work. That was like her entire career was part of her life.
I think she's pissed off at xenomorphs and is pissed off at the company she works for and is like, I'm going to go. Like, I really liked the rage aspect she had in the beginning that immediately fell away once they arrived.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions too about her sort of change in character. Yeah, because like if you think of Ripley in the first one where she is willing to sacrifice some of that crew to protect the rest of the crew, when no one else is willing to do that, when she's like, hey, maybe don't let this guy back on the ship if he had something wrapped around his head. Like, it's probably contaminated or whatever.
Yeah.
That Ripley would not care about Newt. She would just be like, let's get the fuck out of here. And let's make sure this thing doesn't get back to Earth.
She, like, cared about the cat, so she went back for the cat, you know? Like, I think she could care for, like, something that is small and helpless in a scenario like that. So I think she can. So like once it makes sense, but I think her attitude in it is very strange. Like it just doesn't sound like her at all. And like, yes, everybody is different.
It's like, I don't know. I saw her and Newt reflect each other because they're not surviving with brute force. They're surviving with intellect and how they react in the scene. Like they are scared, but they're using their intelligence to get out. Newt's hiding while Ripley's using her intellect like she did in the first one.
Yeah, she's a smart character, but like
probably the smartest character out of any sci-fi franchise I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I love Ripley because she's a smart, strong female powerhouse that fucks up people. But I just think like the range of emotion could have been a little bit more.
It's a crutch. Feels like a crutch.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Never mind.
I just don't like the rage feels like a crutch. I'm confused.
No, the mother aspect feels like a crutch to me. It just feels like such a crutch. It feels like it's a dude writing a movie for a strong female character. And yes, this female character is strong, but it is just like this perspective of, well, how do we advance her and how do we make her stronger? Well, I guess she could be a mother. And it's like, yeah, you could do that, but like, I don't know. I just feel like Ripley shows how strong she is better in like 3 when she's on her own, left to her own devices and able to make her own decisions. Here, it just seems like a writing crutch where it's like, well, she's got to protect this kid and she lost her daughter back home. And
I also think it's fine to protect a kid like without being a mom.
Yeah, also that too. Because
like any of the other members of the squadron could be like really concerned, like Hicks or something. Like he kind of, I feel like everybody kind of ignores the kid except for, is this just her imagination?
No, there's a whole thing to go down.
I only think 2 characters actually care about Newt, and it's Hicks and Ripley. That's it. And I think Ripley cares about Newt more of like she cares about the cat, and I think Hicks always just cares
what Ripley cares about.
Yeah, because there's a weird mixture between her and Hicks, even though they never explore it, which I'm so happy they didn't. They both are kind of similar and different at the same time, because he's also not like the machismo Marine. He seems to be the Marine that's more like, I'm thinking about everything. He's weird because he's not really a leading man in this, but they kind of portray him as the leading man.
It kind of comes later. I feel like we are introduced into this ensemble of like these gunheads, and like he's kind of just like a generic member of the team. They're all like hoorah, like it's that kind of vibe. And then much later in the film, he kind of feels more like in a position of power. So I feel like the dynamics were a little fuzzy for me because I don't know who's necessarily in charge of this, like, and then there's a lot of like the people who are running the money, is it Burke who turns out to be just like scum, corporate greaseball, of course, but it's like the hierarchy is so confused. I feel like when we meet everybody, because it's like, I get it, you're introducing like a huge new group of people, but it just gets a little fuzzy.
And for a movie with so many just like characters talking in a room, Jesus Christ.
Well, that's what did so well with the first one, and that's probably why they were excited to do that again.
Yeah, I mean, it works in the first one. I'll say that. But
I completely disagree with you, man. I think the talking in the room with this is just entertaining because Bill Paxton is just fun. He's an idiot, but he is a fun idiot. And when they were sitting there going through this movie, he was talking about how all the Marines wanted to work out and get in shape. And he's like, and the rest of them did, but I needed to drink. So he just talks about how he just partied during this whole thing. And then like Goldstein, which I did not know this was this character from T2 until like into the 2000s. Because she looks so different. And they talked about how they all worked out together. Cameron had them all hang out, and they all talked about how Paxton just basically just went out and drank every night.
yeah, he's funny in this movie, but in my opinion, he's not in it like enough in those talking scenes.
You get Bill Paxton in your movie, and he's not like the star.
yeah. I mean, there was enough scenes with just like Paul Reiser talking in rooms that I was just like, God damn! I thought this was supposed to be an action movie.
Oh, there's plenty of action.
There's plenty of action, but I think there's plenty of talking too. Yeah, I have a lot of issues with the pace of this movie.
Yeah, that's kind of like a Cameron thing too. This reminds me a little bit of True Lies when there's parts in this movie where I'm like, yeah, we can go a little bit faster. But he likes to set up story. Jesus.
There's like a huge portion of this movie where, okay, this is like, I feel so bad, but I've only seen this 2 times. And that's where all of the fans of Aliens are like, well, she doesn't even know. Like,
her opinion doesn't count. It doesn't matter. She doesn't even know. She didn't grow up with it.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with it. But there's like, I laughed because this feels like such a huge toy commercial. Like,
and it is.
It's like Alien, but plus all these big guns and these almost mech suits and these like crazy versions of the aliens. But then like when in between, when they're all suited up and holding the things, we get a lot of quiet walking around quite a bit during the middle of it. And I did doze off last night, like in the middle of it. And I felt so bad. And we had to stop it because I was like, I'm falling asleep to this because we just hit that pocket of the movie where like, it is just kind of introducing like weapons and walking around a little bit.
Yeah, just like military, like we're gonna go over here and then this is what we're gonna like military plans, which is just like for me too a kryptonite. Any like military stuff like that, war stuff, like I just don't like it in movies. We stopped it yesterday.
That's the thing is like Cameron, all of his stories have to be so long. Like it feels like the same thing. I've had the same conversation with Avatar where there's parts in there where I'm like, yeah, I like the movie a lot, but man, there's just a lot of like, okay, this has to happen because this happens, and then don't forget to tell this story because that happens. Like I feel it's like Ripley when she's like, well, I feel kind of like a fifth wheel around here. Can I do something? I don't know. Can you? And then they have to set up the suit, and that's like a 5-minute scene to set up the fight at the end. But he does that in so many sections of his movies.
Yeah, but for 2 hours and like what 10 minutes long. Yeah, I think like not the story aspect, like them walking around doing nothing. You know, it's not. Yeah, it's not the story, and I just feel like maybe a difference in like vibe because I think the first one in those quiet moments it feels eerie because it is like it gets the advantage that it's the first one because like. There's kind of a scary element to it. Like there is a threat. There is one single threat you are worried about. And so in the second film, there's threats apparently all around. And you have a giant group of people who are aware of the threat, but don't care because again, like you said, the confidence level that they have, which like is good in a turn of character because it's like they get to see it and then they're like, oh shit, this is real. But it just doesn't feel like the stakes don't feel as high, even though it's like even crazier. You know, I think this second one like turned it up like to 20, whereas like usually sequels will only go to like, 12, like in addition to like the first film, like this really went all out in like volume of what was the threat. but I didn't feel more scared.
I wish I would have also seen the aliens more than just like the last 45 minutes of this movie. Like, we get one scene where we see them, where like the threat is sort of revealed when they're, and it's all fast cuts and stuff like that too. So we really don't see much,
which is a bummer because like I liked the look of the aliens in this movie.
Yeah, but we just really don't get, like, for a 2-hour and 18-minute movie, we just don't get the look at the aliens good until the last 45, 50 minutes, and that's really disappointing. And we were watching it this time too, and at the point at which there's just Marines walking around talking.
I'll tell you what I know. We sat down on LV-426. One of our crew members was brought back on board with something attached to his face, some kind of parasite. We tried to get it off. It wouldn't come off. Later, it seemed to come off by itself and die. Kane seemed fine. We were all having dinner, and, it must have laid something inside his throat, some sort of embryo. He started,
Look, man, I only need to know one thing. Where they are.
Yo, Vasquez, kick ass.
Anytime, anywhere, man.
Right. Somebody said alien. She thought they said illegal alien and signed up.
Fuck you, man.
Anytime, anywhere.
Are you finished? I hope you're right. I really do.
Yeah, okay, right. Thank you, Ripley. We also have Ripley's report on disc. I suggest you study
Because
it.
just one of those things managed to wipe out my entire crew in less than 24 hours. And if the colonists have found that ship, then there's no telling how many of them have been exposed. Do you understand?
Anyway, we have it on disc, so you better look at it. Any questions? What is it, Private?
How do I get out of this chicken shit outfit?
You secure that shit, Hudson.
I was like, where the fuck are the aliens? And I've seen this movie like 100 times, so.
Yeah, see, I like the build-up. I just don't like so much of the build-up. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need 50 minutes of build-up. Can I get just like 30?
Yeah, I'm good with a 20-30 range of that too. But 50 minutes is pretty much how long it took to get to that portion where there are aliens all up in the room they're in, and they're like stepping on like organic matter. I'm like, guys, red flag. The ground is basically aliens.
Well, I feel like the one scene that like could be trimmed down too is when the Marines are like entering the base. And I realized there's like, I watched it. There's, I think 12 to 14 minutes of them doing stuff before they get to the facehugger like laboratory. And that was a part where I'm like, that is Cameron who just loves to show all the production stuff. He loves to build and build and build.
He's a gearhead. He's like a tech head. He loves all of those details. And like, I think this, I'm fine that this movie exists. Like, you know, it gives us more of the world. But I think for his career, it is beneficial because when he went on to do Avatar, like, yes, it has the same kind of pacing issues or whatever. But like, that dude spent his entire brain like creating a new like level of technology and species and stuff. So I feel like this was almost like little baby steps for that. And I mean, also Terminator and everything. Like, he keeps one-upping himself. And I think this one is like kind of like the early stages of him like being like, okay, alien life. How am I gonna explain the technology and everything? And now it's funny in being in 2021 to be like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and I think it works in terms of like the world building of like, I think the sets and the production design are amazing. I think the cinematography, the look, the art direction of this movie are amazing. I think this movie is a great looking movie and a unique looking movie, and it sort of turned sci-fi in the 80s or whatever, to action sci-fi. I think visually it's all there. My problems with Cameron, I guess, come with the script. I think the script is kind of lazy.
Well, he was writing 3 at one time, so I could see why he just did some stuff. He's like, oh, I just stole this from here. I mean, I took it. I mean, I made it better. Like, whatever Cameron excuse you want to put in there. 3. I can't even believe he wrote 3 scripts at the same time. That's insane.
I'm not even a Cameron hater either, because obviously the Terminator movies are like my favorites. Like I love the Terminator
that.
movies.
I love Avatar.
I think Avatar's really fun. I really like Avatar a lot. And I do like this movie, but man, it's got its problems for me.
Yeah, I think I've always been like, this movie could be trimmed down to like an hour and 55 minutes, and it's probably a lot better.
I think that would be on par with the first one, because that's about how long the first one is, and it just feels a little bit tighter, and the focus is more. I think when the movie starts really fast, like we pick up Ripley. Mm-hmm. She has a dream where she gets all of the exposition.
Yeah, it's bad writing.
Oh, Cameron just dropping exposition.
Yeah, Cameron loves to do this to us. And then...
I was like, I just, again, we watched it this time, and I was like, it's a dream. How does she have all this exposition?
So we'll just glance past that. But yeah, so it's very quick. She's emotional about it. Then they're like, bada bing, bada boom. We don't care what you say. We don't listen to you. And then this other dude comes in and he's like, by the way, your concern about that fucking colony we set up on that planet? They have all gone missing and we cannot connect with them. So maybe something is going wrong. So it's like very quick in terms of like, nobody believes you. You're crazy. Just kidding. We're going to send you there because something might be going wrong, but we're going to absolutely spend all of our energy disrespecting you at every
Yeah,
time.
not listening to you there either. Yeah.
So it's so frustrating.
I know. It's like a second movie where we have to watch Ripley not be listened to the whole time. And it's like, God damn it. Somebody just fucking listen to Ripley.
I know. And those two suits, like the arrogant asshole at the top, and then that woman who's like, yeah, so it's a derelict rock. Like those two, I just want to send out the airlock. They piss me off so much.
Get them out of there. We don't need them.
I would never do this, but she goes right up to like the lead guy, puts her arm in front of him and goes, how many families are on that? I'm like, wow.
Why don't you just check out LV 426?
Because I don't have to. There have been people there for over 20 years, and they never complained about any hostile organism.
What do you mean? What people?
Terraformers. Planet engineers. They go in and set up these big atmosphere processes to make the air breathable. Takes decades. It's what we call a shake and bake colony.
How many are there? How many colonists?
I don't know, 60, maybe 70 families. Do you mind?
I think the beginning of this, it's a little strange, but like if take my perspective, who had never seen, I had seen the first one like a lot growing up, but I hadn't seen like the second one. And so when I first watched, I was like, okay, it's a little clunky, but it's like, exciting because like she's already fired up. And I think that's why I don't love the rest of the movie, like when they actually get there and like the mission starts, because that steam kind of goes out, because like I love fired up Ripley, scrappy Ripley. Like I do like the scene with her and Newt like kind of trapped in that I don't know, observation room or something, the medical room, and where the face huggers come out everywhere, because they are using, like you said, their smarts, and they're using like the tables to kind of crush them and like hold them against the bed. They squish them against the wall. It's like the energy is there again in her character, but a lot of the movie it's kind of just her going Newt and running. And like I get it, the little girl's name is not Rebecca, it is Newt. So why did we even have to know her name was Rebecca?
Yeah, that another like thing, like why is that even in here then?
Why was she nicknamed Newt? All these years, I honestly don't know. There's a reason, I'm sure. But
I'm sure it's just like she crawls around a lot and she's like a little lizard. She's like a little fast lizard, and maybe like her family called her that because she liked to scrounge around the new planet or something. I don't know.
Or her middle name is Newton. Rebecca Newton Jennings or whatever it is.
That's beautiful.
I don't know if you just made that up, but is that true?
No, I've just made that up. I just made that up.
You know what? It's fact. Boom. Boom.
I bet Cameron is like, finally, someone understands me. James Cameron is like, there is one man who understands my brain.
I wish we had a gavel that officially changed the internet right when we hit it. Okay, it's official. We're the judges of the... There we go!
I was afraid I was going to snap my coaster in half. And then a face hugger would pop out.
Speaking of the face huggers and all the aliens and everything that Stan Winston did, that is awesome. What he did to create all these, to take the old Geiger examples and illustrations and then create the Queen we'll get to in the end, but even the face huggers he looked at and he goes, they're perfect. I'm not changing them. I'm just going to make them move better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what Stan Winston seems to do in all of his movies. If it's perfection already, he doesn't change it. But if it needs to be added on to, he just seems like he's a great guy to work with. Or, well, was.
I think it's like a simple evolution in it. Like, he appreciates the natural design of it and then either keeps it simple or upgrades it in simple ways or natural ways, because the face huggers, they look great. And the way they we get to see them move a lot more.
Yeah, they're more hand puppety. Yeah, with the fingers and stuff. Yeah.
So we get to see those digits, each little joint move and everything. And I think there is a little bit more attention to the detail because, again, you have probably a bigger budget. I don't know anything. I'm assuming it had a pretty decent budget.
Yeah, it looks like a bajillion bucks on screen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so I think it's really impressive. All of and then also there's so many different varieties of xenomorph. Is it different ages of them, kind of? Or
yeah,
I don't know. Different species within it? But...
I think it's like ants, where there's the kind of warrior ones, and then there's kind of just the gatherer ones. I think it's like an ant colony, kind of. That's the vibe I got.
Like that.
They brought that, Hawks brought that up. He's like, yeah, it's like ants. And they're like, you mean like bees? And he's like, you know what I mean, man? They had that whole, I don't think it was an argument, but they were trying to figure it out. I don't know if this is supposed to be based off bees or ants because they bring them both up, but it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, whatever. Queen, laying eggs, move on.
We were talking about it earlier. They're a bunch of bugs.
Yeah,
they're
bugs.
insects. So that is a really, I think it is an inspiration for what these are supposed to be like. We don't know what aliens look like, so it's take armor of an insect, take the look, the
well, yeah, even like roaches too, because they're the perfect organism or whatever, where they won't be killed by anything, and if you step on them, they make babies, it feels like ants, roaches, and bees combined or something.
Which is my absolute worst nightmare. That is a horrible nightmare.
I think Matt just made the new lions, tigers, and bears. It's like ants, bees, and cockroaches.
Ew.
Yucky. Yucky.
Ew. Hate it. I hate how gooey everything in this movie is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, everything's got slime on it. Everything has slime on it. It's the 80s, baby.
I didn't realize how wet the xenomorphs were. The xenomorph in the first one until rewatching it a little bit older. I'm like, wow, it's really wet. And this one just goes, everything's wet. Everyone's sweaty.
I wonder if the atmosphere is just a little bit more humid or something on this because everyone is perspiring. The people are perspiring. The xenomorphs are perspiring. There's goo coming out of every possible pocket imaginable. But yeah, there is a moistness to the first film xenomorph that does carry over, and I think that's smart. But again, James Cameron just turns the dial up 200% and it's we gotta have buckets
of slime,
buckets of moisture everywhere, even the walls and the floors, because it is that organic matter and you're ew.
everything's squishy in this. Everything's squishy.
Here's an example of that. In the facehugger in the first one where they cut, and the alien or the acid blood drips down nice and slow and everything, but in this one where they shoot them, the acid blood explodes.
Yeah, and will mess up anyone.
He's like, well, let's put a squib there, and actually, can you make that squib a little bit bigger? There we go. Boom!
A little bit more mucusy.
That's James Cameron onto everything. Let's just make it a little bigger. He's the Tim Allen of directors. Bigger, louder, Just go as fast as you can. Except Tim Allen, blew shit up. Well, I guess James Cameron does too. I don't know. There we go. There's your link. James Cameron is the Tim Allen of directors.
Does Tim Allen make things bigger?
And louder.
In what?
In Home Improvement.
The beautiful tool-time truck, blood, sweat, and gears. This is not your standard Detroit issue. We've made a few engine modifications.
Of course, when you say we, you mean you.
That's right, Al, because if I left it up to you, we'd be on a skateboard and a moped. You hear that? That's a big block Chevy 454, two 4-barrel carburetors nestled on aluminum high-rise manifold headers and dual exhaust.
It's been quite some time since I've seen that.
Oh, that's what he's always, like everything I hear is when he always does that. Yep.
I like James Cameron a lot more than I like Tim Allen, though, so...
Yeah, I do like Lance Henriksen's performance as Bishop in this a lot. How he took the old android who had a lot of problems and then kind of went crazy. It went completely insane. And this one they stuck with, the artificial intelligence getting better and just how he's just so nice. I just want to talk to Lance Henriksen, tell him about my problems in this. I think he'd just be the nicest little android. Artificial intelligence.
I think in his little artificial intelligence chip, they added a level of humanity to him because, in the first one, he's a little harsh, a little cold, and then he, did what he did. But this film, he is much more of a function of the mission and an aid. He feels like an aid in their little regime or whatever. And I do like that they kept the milky blood.
The milk blood.
The milk blood. And they really leaned into it. So it's he's advanced, but the technology is still very similar to the original. He's got milk sacks all up in him because when he blows up, it's pretty gross.
I have never understood the milk blood. I don't get that at all.
I bet James Cameron has an entire scientific paper about what that fluid is.
And Ridley Scott doesn't, and it's just it looked cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much a lot of Ridley Scott.
And that's the difference between these two auteurs. And that's why they're both great,
One of the all-time favorite looks I've ever seen a character give another character is when Ripley's showing the Queen Alien, I've got fire, I'm gonna burn your babies, and then she starts to walk off, and then the egg opens, and you see Ripley's head tilt, you think this is gonna work, and then she just blows the shit out of it. I love her head tilt in that. There is no need for dialogue. It says everything. You think you can trick me? I'm gonna kill your babies, and she does.
Yeah, that's a really good. It's nice to see it's aliens and a human being, and body language says so much because
they're communicating without communicating.
Yeah, the queen kind of nods to each of her lackeys on either side, and they back off because they know there's a threat. So it's the body language is coming through very nicely, and it makes it feel more natural, I guess, because that's how living organisms kind of interact with each other. You have to be aware of the body language and what energy you're putting out. And I think it came across very clearly. And then that little egg baby opened up and fucked everything up.
One of my favorite looks is from Sigourney Weaver is early on in the movie when she tries on the exosuit the first time, and she looks at them and kind of poses when she's in it, and I was that's fucking hilarious.
That was for the toy commercial.
Yeah, right. I had that toy. I mean, it worked. I had the little exosuit toy with the little Ripley you put inside.
Send in the Marines! Ripley's got the power loader.
How's that grab you?
All the firepower a Marine could ask for. When things get buggy, sting them with the stinger.
Rock 'em and rope 'em.
Ugly aliens getting you down.
Send in the Marines.
Aliens.
Yeah, I always wanted it, so I would have been the kid jealous of you. But I did have the Queen Alien, So we could have played.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would have been like, get away from her, you bitch.
This is kind of like just like the upgrade to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, when we were all seeing, damn. This one was just like, you get away from her, you bitch. Like, oh, no. Oh. The battle at the end, I always, and I really do always forget that this happens. Because the movie feels like it's over so much, you know. We find out that Bishop waited for her, and I always love it when she's just like, "You did good, Bishop." And like Bishop's like a dog; he's just like, you can see his tail wagging. He's so happy. He's like, "I did do it. I did good." And then he gets ripped in half.
Yeah, I earned respect from somebody who hated me from before because of another experience. Oh, God! There's just milk everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. When he gets ripped in half, it looks good. I love seeing Bishop get shredded here. It's hilarious.
And I know it's coming each time. And each time, this is what I think. How the hell did that alien get on that ship? And this... I have picked it up. I know I've listened to the commentary that it hid in the like landing gear and all that, but I still look at that ship and I'm like, I don't think she could fit in that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a big lady.
Yeah.
I think they would have felt her
weight.
Like she didn't make. Everybody's just sitting there like, oh, what the hell was that?
What was that
it
jerk
must
I
be
felt?
nothing. No, it's a giant queen xenomorph ready to snap everyone's neck in half. My God.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Either way,
absolutely ridiculous.
I'll let the script logic jump. You know, it's okay. I'll let it go because the fight is fun. We have an ultimate toy commercial fight at the end, which, I mean, as an 80s baby and you two being 90s kids, we have to accept this. This is just what we lived in.
Spielberg ending, right? Where it's like, it can't possibly get any worse. And then it gets worse. And then you're like, well, it can't possibly get any worse. And then it gets worse. This feels very Spielberg here with this ending, because even when she gets the alien to the airlock, of course she falls. And it's like, is she going to get out? You know? And then she's struggling there too. It's never easy. It's never just an ending here.
It does feel like there are a couple false endings because, like, honestly, when she gets Newt and throws grenades in there, that could have been the ending. Credits could have rolled. Or like when Bishop shows up, that could have been the ending. It just never seems to end. It just won't end. It's so long. I think that's why too. But it is really funny, that final fight, like the toy aspect. It does feel like kids holding
two action figures.
Yes, it feels like someone's holding it and moving it towards each other and going clang, clang, clang. And like, yeah, I love that it's more practical. And so of course it's a little clunky, but like it goes on for so long. For a second where I'm like, okay, we can get out of the suit now.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's Stan Winston and James Cameron, like, on a late night, like, coming up with storyboards. And then she uses a torch, and then she picks her up, and then she opens the airlock, and it's just them clanking. Like, that's probably exactly how that was written.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
And it's the toy commercial. That's how you're gonna sell it. I do think it's interesting. Like, I haven't seen this movie, obviously, on anything other than VHS. I'm curious, like, of any cleanups, since I'm sure there's, like, higher quality versions and stuff. I wonder if in those versions I can see anything in the movie. Because I feel like everything is the same color. It is very desaturated in a way, especially when they're, like, entering, like, the mission zone area. I can't really see the action that's happening.
I prefer to watch these movies on VHS, honestly. Yeah, you kind of want the widescreen aspect to kind of see all the cool sets and stuff like that. But I really feel like in the full frame and in sort of the film look process, you know, where it's on the videotape, you can actually see more. I feel like what's happening kind of in the main frame. I prefer these on VHS personally.
I just couldn't see. Like, it's so many quick edits and so much, like, gunfire, and I know that's the whole point. It's supposed to be chaotic, but, like, you have really awesome set pieces and really awesome effects with the xenomorphs, like I would like to see a little bit more of it than like just like a second of it, you know, like I need to see it a little bit better. So I think like that middle section of the movie, even leading into like their kind of big battle, like with the Marines, that is frustrating to me because I'm like, I know you guys are doing something. I just can't really see it. It just feels so claustrophobic, which I think is probably a point, but it's just not my preference of it. Because like I really want to appreciate what is on the screen.
Yeah, I bet Cameron was trying to replicate the claustrophobia, like right when they enter and they start fighting, and we can only see what they see through their shitty cameras. They're like body cams. I bet that was exactly what he was trying to do. He didn't really say it in the commentary, but it did. It felt like most of this movie feels wide open compared. I mean, it's complete opposite of what Ridley Scott was doing.
Yeah.
Except that portion right there. And I bet that was totally on purpose.
Yeah, it is, because it's like such an open colony area. They're kind of in different locations, whereas like the first one, you're in like the same ship circling a bunch. So you like, we almost know the layout of the first movie in a weird way. Whereas this one, it's like, what's behind these pipes? What's behind these pipes? It's just like a never ending chamber. It is big, but also, yeah, still claustrophobic. So I think it achieves something there. It's just like with how many people and action moments, I just couldn't tell what was going on.
Lost in the chaos a little bit.
I got a little lost in the chaos.
Yeah, and I wonder if that was on purpose too. I never feel like I know where they are in this installation base.
And then at the end, it's like blowing up and it's huge. I feel like it felt very like ground oriented before, and then at the end it's like 20 stories high or something.
Right. Like the Nostromo in the first one, you know, like you said, you know the whole layout. You can walk around the ship in your brain. You know, this one, yeah, I have no kind of gauge where they are at any given point.
It's amazing that they can find where they're going.
Yeah, it's like I'm not lost, I'm not confused as a viewer. I'm just saying like it's so much space to play in. I don't have a map in my head of where they are.
It's so massive that maybe it was on purpose. I don't know. I'll let Cameron defend that, or I don't know, explain it. Okay, Cameron, go. Oh, okay.
Well,
okay.
Well, I really,
He would get the most non-answer possible, I'm sure.
It's all about imagination.
So, other than, Ripley, of course, she's awesome. She's our favorite. So, do you guys have favorites and least favorite characters in this?
Newt, least favorite character. I'm so fucking mean. I don't care. Come at me, 80s babies that love this movie. Come at me. Newt's fucking annoying.
Matt definitely has a thing where he cannot stand when children characters just scream the entire movie. And
Can't
to be fair, Newt does scream quite a bit because there's a lot of scary shit happening for a baby.
But as a viewer, I'm annoyed as shit. So Newt's my least favorite for sure. And other than Ripley, favorite character, I don't have one.
I think it's hard for me because I feel like the Marine group are kind of all the same. They're not.
They definitely give you enough time to know their individual personalities.
They're not. But like, I don't necessarily feel any way about anybody. I think I'm always like a little... I loved the moment when... Is it Vasquez and... Who's the other guy? They blow each other. They blow themselves up to kind of sacrifice. I think that's a cool moment for those characters, but like I just don't really connect with anybody that much.
I like Bill Paxton because I like Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
But that's because I like Bill Paxton. I also like Michael Biehn, but I don't think Michael Biehn has anything to do in this movie.
Who's the character who plays Burke?
The Paul Reiser?
Oh, Paul Reiser. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe he's one of my favorite characters from this.
Literally was thinking that too, though. If I had to say somebody, that would have been my favorite character because he's the worst.
He is doing something so specific that it's frustrating. You can't stand him. You're disappointed by him because at first he's the one who believes Ripley and he tells her like, hey, this is the way out. And he like manipulates her into doing this and then turns out to be just like has no spine and he's awful.
I've got to get to work.
All right. I heard you're working in the cargo docks.
That's right.
Running loaders and forklifts, that sort of thing?
So?
Nothing. I think it's great that you're keeping busy. And I know it's the only thing that you could get. There's nothing wrong with it. What would you say if I told you I could get you reinstated as a flight officer? The company has already agreed to pick up your contract.
If I go.
Yeah, if you go. Come on, that's a second chance, kiddo. And I think personally for you it would be the best thing in the world to get out there and face this thing. Get back on the horse.
Spare me, Burke. I've had my psych evaluation this month.
Yeah, I know. I've read it. You wake up every night, your sheets are soaking with sweat.
I said no, and I mean it.
He is doing that type of character pretty well, in contrast to like how the first film we have the android doing those things. It's like this is a nice human version of it. So I thought he did a pretty good job, and I don't think a lot of people, well, you just said it, but like people who love this movie, I feel like they're like, no, Burke's the worst. But I think he did a good job.
I think he did a great job at being the worst. That's his whole point of his character. It's great.
I mean, he's really good.
Mine isn't so much like characters, it's like little moments from these characters. I always love,
exactly,
you know, like when Hudson, he's like, show us the trick, Bishop.
Hey, Bishop, man. Do the thing with the knife.
Please.
Oh, come on, yeah. Do it, man. This is great. All right, check this out.
I don't want to see that, man.
Come on, man. All right.
Hey, what are you doing, man? Hey, what are you doing? Come on, quit messing around, Dre. Come on. Bishop, hey, man.
Do it, Bishop.
Hey, not me, man.
Yeah, you.
Hey, come on, quit messing around.
Don't move.
Come on.
Trust me.
Thank you.
And I know originally it was supposed to be Bishop just doing it with his own hand, but then Lance Henriksen asked Cameron if he could do something, and he's like, it would be a lot better and there'd be a lot more tension if we did it with the little jackass Hudson's hand. And like, they all liked it. They're like, that's great. And then like at one point, you know, Vasquez, her joke.
Hey, Vasquez. Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
Oh, Vasquez.
You're just too bad.
I also love her little scene where she gives Bishop the gun, and Bishop looks at the gun and then just immediately hands it to Ripley.
He's like, what am I supposed to do?
What am I going to do with this? Yeah, so there are little bitty scenes throughout this, but one of mine that I'm like, I've never been a big fan of Corporal Hicks, Michael Biehn's character, because he really doesn't do anything. And they kind of made a joke on that. The reason he's asleep on the ship, you know, when their sergeant or whatever says, will someone wake up Hicks? I mean, Sigourney Weaver behind the scenes, like, was walking past him, and apparently Michael Biehn had fallen asleep on set. And she said, as a joke, this wasn't like ripping him or anything. She goes, "Hey, look at our leading man, everyone, sleeping right through it," you know, and they put it in the movie. I think that's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, and apparently they were all in good spirits, even though they said this was a hard shoot. Of course it was. It's Cameron. But they said they're
soaking wet the whole time.
Yeah.
Of course it's a hard shoot.
But he said they had them all hang out and everything, practice their lines and become better acquainted with each other. And a lot of them were friends to this day. They still talk to each other. And I find that amazing. And, you know, they were so sad when Bill Paxton passed and apparently went to his funeral and everything. Like, that's kind of really interesting that actors could, like, just hang out for a few weeks and become that type of friends. And they said a lot of it had to do with them constantly going to cons as well. So it was like each time it was like a reunion. And they also said fans sometimes ask the stupidest questions. And I was like, no, durr.
That's what they're best at.
Can you imagine? let's take I
already know where you're going.
Imagination second. Can you imagine having to be a moderator for a Q&A for this movie?
No.
And it's just like a bunch of like, no offense, listeners, but a bunch of sweaty black shirts, you know, being like,
black hoodies,
aliens, fucking aliens. When you did this, did it mean this? You know, like. I think Aliens would be my number one movie I would never want to moderate a Q&A for.
No, I know which ones I would not want. No, I'm not even going to go into it. I have so many because I've been to some of them. And I'm like, yeah, that is not a good way. If I was the moderator, I would just be like, bad question, next.
I had to walk out of a Doctor Who one. I'm like, I can't do this. No.
I was mortified by a panel with Malcolm McDowell and this nerd
Clockwork Orange super
fan was asking the most awful questions and like uncomfortable. It was basic. Oh, I can't even get into it, but I made my skin crawl and I was like, I will never come to these again.
and Malcolm McDowell's like such a troll too in
he's
real life.
Like, what are you
and he's
saying?
just he's encouraging this guy to just double down on his awful questions. And it's like, yeah, it was skin crawly for sure. And I imagine similar experiences would happen at an Aliens Q&A.
I just don't need that. Mm-mm.
All right, let's go on to the museum.
This is the second time I've had to reclaim my property from you.
That belongs in a museum.
So do you.
This is the part of the show where we go out into the film jungle and bring something back. And we're bringing something back to the James Cameron / Aliens franchise wing of the museum. Ashley, you're the guest. You get to go first.
Oh my goodness. This is so difficult. I mean, like, I don't know if she'll fit in there, but like the Queen probably should just go in the museum.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
It's a little funky, but it's big. It's like enormous, so that's to be expected, especially with like practical effects at this time, I think. But it's like a pretty cool evolution of it. Ew, oh my god, what I do not want to be in the museum is that like birthing sac tube that she detaches herself from.
Yucky.
I absolutely did not like that moment where she's like, oh, I gotta go get this girl because my baby's on fire. Let me separate from my birthing tube. Gross. So we're leaving those, but we'll put the Queen and maybe a couple of her eggs in there because they are pretty fun when they open up.
Yeah.
It's a good effect. It's pretty good. So I'm going with the most obvious answer for the museum, but it's because it's essential to this movie.
Well, I'm going to put something that'll go right next to it nicely. I love the exosuit. I love stuff like this. Put somebody in something and make them drive it, and it's like, you know, a second, like whether it's VR or Pacific Rim and they're doing the big ships and that. I don't know what they're called. I forget what they're called. But,
they're like mech suits.
Yeah, like any kind of mech suit thing. Power Rangers does it. Like, I fucking love that shit. I eat it up. So I love the exosuit, and I think they should be next to each other in the museum because, of course, that's the final battle. And I really love it. I love exosuits so much. You actually saw me watching Exo Squad the other night, the 90s cartoon show, where the whole concept is based on people in exosuits.
I literally was like, is this for children? It feels very
clinical.
Like, clinical.
He said it was clinical.
I did say that. I did say that cartoon for children was very clinical.
I like mech suits. Can't help it.
Well, we now know what you should be for every Halloween. We just need to get you one mech suit, and then the rest of your life, that's what you got to be.
Yeah, I mean, somebody wants to fucking get me a mech suit, I'm down.
Well, I'm not going to say it's going to be very good.
I'll make you one.
Okay. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to drive it around.
Yeah, I guess we're all just going to put toys in this because mine is all the like military car or whatever, like this tank car that they're driving where I'm like, this is like a shitty version of the Batman mobile, but like I love all of them, or like the ship that's coming down and all the parts are moving and everything. I just love how they just expanded upon this. But it doesn't really get talked about much in these films because there's just so much, you know?
There's a lot of tech.
Yeah.
I do too. I like all this. The ships and the car and the mech suit, obviously.
So we're just making a play set for this.
Yeah, I basically love the Aliens play set here.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
That's a really fun corner of the museum.
I'll put Newt in the museum. No, I'm kidding. That was going to be my joke.
Oh my god, I'm putting Newt through the airlock as well.
Oh, so you're going to write the third one because that's basically what they did.
Oh my god. I mean, like, I've seen the third one once as well, and like, I literally just looked him out and I asked him, I was like, doesn't she just get thrown away like immediately? And he's like, yes. Yes.
And then they wonder why I love the third one.
And that's the best part about the Alien franchise, is that every movie throws away something established from the first one.
There you go.
And that's why it's fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, we took this movie to task. I think, especially me, I was probably the meanest to this movie.
That was surprising. I thought I was supposed to be the villain of this episode, and you were like, this movie fucking so slow.
I want to say, I do like this movie, and I love this franchise, and, you know, even if it's the least of the three for me, it's still, I like it. It's like how Dawn of the Dead is the least of the three for me. Of that trilogy. I still like that movie, you know, and I still like this movie, but I think it was important to take it to task, because I bet any other podcast you listen to just sucks this movie's ass, and rightfully so, because there is a lot of good stuff happening in this. I'm not going to argue that ever, but I think it was important to kind of pick it apart a little bit. But I do want to make it clear, I do like this movie still.
I love how you choose suck ass as the like anatomy where you're like, that's where everyone goes for pleasure, sucking of the ass.
Yeah. I think nowadays,
I think so. Yeah. I think, the young people, they love sucking each other's asses.
Oh, okay. Yep.
He ain't wrong. Here's the question. Do xenomorphs even have butts? We don't know.
They have birthing sacks, but I don't know if they have butts. Well, they don't eat and they don't drink, so they probably don't. Well, I mean, I'm making that
Did you
up.
just say they have birthing sex? Is that what you said?
Sacks.
I thought you said they have birthing sex, and I'm like, the
with
funnest sex ever. That's gross. We have entered a weird area.
Yeah, I gotta stop. I gotta shut up.
I almost put this in the museum as the fuck you to the big corporation, 20th Century Fox. They really tried to eliminate Sigourney Weaver from this franchise, from this movie, basically. But Cameron liked her character so much, and they told him, yes, write the movie. But they assumed that they could just replace Sigourney Weaver in this.
Never.
But Cameron is like, no, I wrote the entire movie based on her character. Then they turned around, and Sigourney Weaver and her agent, they just planted themselves down and said, we're not doing this movie unless you hit this mark. And she set a record for pay for an actress. I think she was paid 30 times the amount of her first. I believe Alien was her first movie, so she got paid around 30 times the amount, and it was around $1 million, and pretty much set the standard at that time. So yeah, it was like the ultimate fuck you to 20th Century Fox. And what are they thinking? It's like, it was such a popular movie, such a popular character, and you just think, replace her.
She is the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's the franchise.
Like, I think the thing that's frustrating for me as like a fan of this movie is this is kind of Ripley the movie. And I love Ripley the character, but I do wish they did some different stuff with the character in this one. But it's like Ripley the movie. How could you do this movie without her?
I love that she has stuck it to him every movie. Every movie she's got a pay increase, and every time it's just like, fuck you for trying to write me out of this franchise.
Yeah, she deserves it.
People are coming to see these movies for Sigourney Weaver and the Alien practical effects, or in the later ones, the CGI.
And it's usually fun to have like some kind of android on the
ship. Yeah.
So like that's pretty much the three things.
Yeah.
Have it be in space.
Yeah.
Aliens, Ripley, Milkman.
Milk droids.
Milk droids. Yep. That's how we're ending this. And thanks for coming by, Ashley.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I love, just talking about all this shit. Making people mad.
You're always our sci-fi guest. It's amazing.
I know. I think that's funny that An area that I think I was not as big on as a kid. I was, but I didn't see Star Wars until later. I didn't see a lot of these things until later, but I'm happy to be like the correspondent on it now.
I like your perspective because you didn't grow up with it, you know. Like,
I'm not a fanboy in a sense.
Exactly. Like, keep us honest and keep us on task here. And like, yeah, it's an interesting perspective, just, you know, fandom or whatever aside, to have it fresh. You know, you just saw this movie for the first time, you know, a couple years ago. And I think that's nice to have like fresh perspectives on these things too. So thanks for always being...
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm happy to give my fresh perspective anytime you need it. If you want to check out any more of my insights or Matt's also insights while he's high, you can check out the AF High List podcast. We are watching the 100 greatest American films from the American Film Institute's list from 1998. And we are already we're nearing 70. We are deep in this list. So there's something for everybody on there. You can check that out wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, and next week we'll come back with another alien. I think you can figure out which one.
The next one.
Are there 3 of them?
All right, so remember to be kind.
And rewind.